When I found out my boyfriend was the crown prince of one of the most powerful families in New York, I was already pregnant with his child. The news of his engagement to the daughter of another elite family quickly shot up to the top of the trending searches. I tore up my pregnancy test results and left him a note. Not only did you pretend to be poor to deceive me, but now you want me to be your mistress. We're done, you bastard. Chapter 1. 3 days later, I was sunbathing on a small private island in the South Pacific when a pair of strong hands suddenly rested on my belly. A man leaned close, his breath warm against my ear as he whispered, "Baby, was it fun running away while pregnant?" His voice softened, teasing me the way he always did. "Be good. Eat a little more. Okay. See, you finished it all. That's my girl. Don't cry. Don't cry. Drink your milk and go to sleep." Why was I dreaming about him again? I woke up from that sweet dream, my cheeks burning hot. It was all because of Ryan. How could he not step outside even once for an entire month? I lightly patted my face, trying to shake off those tangled memories. For the past month, he had insisted that drinking milk would help me sleep better, forcing me to drink it every single night. I drank so much that my stomach was constantly bloated, and now it was actually starting to round out. I tiptoed to the floor-to-ceiling window. The vast blue ocean and golden beach outside the villa washed away some of the frustration building inside me. I took a deep breath. The island was 2 hours behind New York time. Right now, Ryan was probably holding his fiancée in his arms, sleeping peacefully. I rubbed my still flat belly. Whatever. He could have his fiancée. I had his child. The less I dreamed about him, the better. It had only been 3 days since the breakup. Maybe this was just withdrawal. Tonight, I definitely wouldn't dream about him again. I quietly went downstairs to find something to eat. The hotel's breakfast buffet was lavish, and since it was included in the room price, I believed it would be a waste not to eat my fill. After breakfast, I planned to relax and sunbathe on the beach. Last month, I barely left the room. When I once pouted and said I wanted to sunbathe, Ryan had carried me out to the swing chair on the balcony. In broad daylight, right there on the balcony, I had called him a pervert. But instead of feeling embarrassed, he had looked proud of himself. After eating until I was stuffed, I went back to my room, changed into a new bikini I had just bought, applied sunscreen, and headed down to the beach. I lay back on a lounge chair sipping coconut water while scrolling through articles about early pregnancy precautions. For days earlier, I hadn't been feeling well. I went to the hospital in Manhattan for a checkup, wandered around for a while, and somehow ended up in the obstetrics department. After the examination, the doctor adjusted her glasses and said calmly, "You're pregnant." I blinked in disbelief. "Really?" She nodded. Overjoyed, I took the test results, ready to tell Ryan. Not long before that, he had proposed to me. Now, with this news, it felt like double happiness. But as soon as I unlocked my phone, a breaking entertainment headline popped up. Childhood sweetheart's engagement among the elite, too sweet to handle. Curious, I clicked on it, thinking it was just another rich family drama. But the moment the page loaded, I froze. The man in the photo, smiling confidently in a tailored suit, was unmistakably Ryan. His name was printed clearly below, Ryan Anderson. I didn't believe it at first. I refreshed the page several times, but his name didn't change. The woman beside him was breathtakingly beautiful. Her arm linked through his as they smiled brightly at the cameras. Heir to one of New York's most powerful families, the crown prince of the Anderson Group. He was surrounded by glory and prestige. I stared blankly at the familiar face etched so deeply in my heart. The more I looked, the more dazed I became. He had told me he was just starting his business, that the luxury car and the penthouse were borrowed to impress investors, and I had believed him. Still, I clung to one last shred of hope. Maybe there really were two people in the world who looked exactly alike. That night when he came home, I secretly tested him with a few questions I had found online, pretending it was just small talk. But every answer he gave confirmed it. He really was the Ryan Anderson from the news. My world crumbled in that instant. That night, furious and heartbroken, I kicked him out of the bedroom. He stood there in the doorway looking hurt as if I were the one being unreasonable. I had planned to ignore him for a few days, just enough time to calm myself down before we talked things through. But the next morning, I woke up late. After brushing my teeth, I stepped out onto the balcony and froze. There was someone downstairs. When I looked closer, I realized it was her, the woman from the engagement rumors. The two of them were standing close together, so close that it almost looked like they were kissing. Right at that moment, a notification popped up on my phone. Update on yesterday's breaking story. The Crown Prince of New York's elite circle announces his wedding date. The bride has been confirmed. The more I read, the angrier I became until rage consumed me. I tore the pregnancy test results into pieces. After that, I decided to end it for good. I blocked every possible way he could contact me and booked the earliest flight out of the country that very night. I needed to leave, to clear my head, to forget every trace of that man. My phone seemed to understand me. For the past few days, it hadn't shown me a single piece of news about him. I fought the urge to search his name, forcing myself to focus on articles about early pregnancy care. The baby was still tiny, too early to feel any movement. I touched my slightly bloated stomach and sighed. Guess that's not the baby. It's just from eating too much this morning. Then I smiled softly and whispered, "Sweetheart, Mommy will take good care of you. Even though Mommy and Daddy broke up, you're still the little miracle I've been waiting for." I must have dozed off for a short while because when I opened my eyes again, the beach that had been scattered with tourists earlier was now completely empty. I checked my phone. Only 30 minutes had passed. Where did everyone go? I stood up puzzled and decided to walk around to find someone to ask. But after circling the area, I didn't see a single person. There were no emergency alerts or weather warnings either. The beach was silent except for the sound of waves crashing onto the shore. The emptiness made me uneasy. Maybe I should just go back to the hotel. I turned toward my lounge chair to grab my bag, but then realized I couldn't remember where I'd put it. I knelt on the chair and leaned forward, searching around frantically. Chapter 2. Suddenly, a pair of strong arms wrapped around my waist from behind. A tall shadow loomed over me, enveloping me completely. My whole body went rigid. I couldn't move. A low, lazy male voice brushed against my ear. "What are you looking for?" My hands tightened on the back of the chair. "My bag. Did you find it?" I shook my head, then realized he couldn't see me from behind. "No, not yet," I whispered. His voice dropped lower, rougher, and his hands started to move more freely along my waist. "How could you find it when I've already hidden it?" I turned around sharply, ready to snap at him, but he was too close. My lips brushed against his cheek by accident. Ryan's eyes glinted with amusement, a teasing smile curving on his face. "Did you miss me that much these past few days? So eager to kiss me already?" I flushed. "No, I didn't miss you. Not at all. I just keep dreaming about you. That's all. But dreams aren't something I can control." I pushed against his chest. "This is the beach, Ryan." He turned me around, so I was facing him. His voice was soft but indistinct. "While you were sleeping, the staff cleared the area. There are security guards outside. No one can come near this section." I tilted my head back, trying to hold back my frustration. "You're unbelievable," I hissed. In broad daylight, in the middle of the beach. He was doing this on purpose, and then he bit me. He actually bit me. He knew how sensitive I was, how I couldn't handle this kind of teasing, but he still did it. Tears welled up in my eyes from the pain. He reached up and gently wiped the corner of my eye. "Hurts, doesn't it? You knew it would hurt, and you still bit me." I snapped. "You really are the worst. I hate you." I turned my face away. "I'm not talking to you anymore, you arrogant jerk." Ryan chuckled, scooping me effortlessly into his arms and setting me on his lap. "I'm the jerk? Who was it that blocked my number, disappeared overseas without a word, and ran off while pregnant? Who said I didn't say anything?" I protested. "I told you we broke up." "Give me my clothes back," I demanded, reaching for the shirt he had tossed on the table earlier. But before I could grab it, he pulled me back again, his smile fading slightly. I never agreed to break up, he said quietly. I don't need your agreement, I shot back. It's enough that I decided to. He sat me on his lap and took off his watch. That luxury timepiece, one that probably cost more than most people made in a year, was placed neatly on the table beside us. My heart skipped a beat. Every time Ryan took off his watch, it meant trouble. He smiled faintly, his tone calm but laced with danger. Who taught you to break up with someone on your own? So it was about that smack. Before I could react, his hand came down hard on me. A sharp sting spread through me. I gasped. This time he was hitting harder than ever, as if punishing me for running away without a word. 1, he said coolly. You're supposed to count. You know the rules. I bit my lip stubbornly. I won't. We've already broken up. You have no right to punish me. His palm came down again, firm and deliberate. If you don't count, he said evenly, we'll start over. I turned my head angrily. You can't start over. It's already 2. He raised a brow. Then what comes next? Humiliated, I whispered. 3. He looked down at me, eyes dark. What else? Tears welled up in my eyes. Thank you, sir. God, why had I ever agreed to this ridiculous rule of his in the first place? Finally, Ryan seemed satisfied. He bent down, brushing a kiss against my lips. Good girl. Next time, don't lose count. He had come prepared. Clearly, he'd already decided how he was going to punish me. He even brought ointment with him. When the 20 hits were finally over, I crawled into his arms, fuming. He rubbed medicine onto me seriously, his expression focused. Does it hurt? He asked quietly. Of course it hurts, I snapped. You were brutal today. He chuckled. Good. Maybe now you'll think twice before breaking up with me again. I thought back to the way he spoke to that other woman, so gentle, so polite. Why was he always so harsh with me? Why couldn't he show me the same kind of tenderness? I turned away stubbornly. We're still broken up. He pinched my cheek lightly. You're so stubborn. Ryan put his jacket over my shoulders and led me back to the hotel. I tensed, murmuring, I'm pregnant, you know. He leaned in and whispered near my ear, his voice low and teasing. There are plenty of ways to punish you. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. My butt still hurts right now, I protested. If that's not hurt, then what is? I'd underestimated him. When I tried to beg, he only shook his head. You're pregnant. That's off limits. Frustration welled up in me until tears started falling. He sighed, kissed the wet corners of my eyes, and said softly, all right. Stop crying. I was wrong. Okay, but I really can't. Not right now. I turned my back to him. I don't want to see you. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his hand gently resting on my belly. In a calm voice, he began describing our future as if it were already written. When we go back home, we'll get the marriage license first. Do you want to have the baby before the wedding or do the ceremony first? He paused for a moment, then added, if we have the wedding first, we'll have to keep it simple. You might not fit into the original dress. Chapter 3. He sighed softly. The gown was ordered 3 months ago. I'll have to send it back for alterations. 3 months ago, I echoed faintly. You started planning 3 months ago. I drifted into sleep before I could process his words. But just as I was slipping into dreams, something tugged at me. Wait, that didn't make sense. I'd already broken up with him. Why was he talking about marriage? I didn't have time to think. Sleep pulled me under completely. Maybe because he was beside me. I didn't dream at all that night. It was the first peaceful sleep I'd had in weeks. When I finally woke up, sunlight was streaming through the curtains. Ryan was already in the shower. I sat up, hugging the blanket, lightly slapping my cheeks. Why did it take other people months to get caught after running away while I lasted only 3 days before Ryan found me halfway across the world? Romance novels were such lies. As I was questioning my life choices, Ryan's phone started ringing on the nightstand. The caller ID showed just 2 words, Hannah. Hannah. That name sounded familiar. It hit me. Hannah was the woman from that engagement headline. It was 6 o'clock in the morning here, meaning it was 4 a.m. back in New York. Who called a man at 4 a.m.? I bit my lip, grabbed his phone, and knocked on the bathroom door. Ryan, your phone's ringing. The door opened immediately. He was still covered in soap suds, water dripping from his hair. I gasped and turned my head away. He chuckled, flicking a bit of suds playfully onto my cheek. Put it on speaker for me, he said casually. Put it on speaker. Taking a call from Hannah at this hour. Wasn't that crossing a line? Still, against my better judgment, I did as he said and pressed the button to answer. The call connected. A woman's sobbing voice echoed through the speaker. She was sniffling between words. I broke up with him. Then we fought. They took me to the police station. Can you come get me? I pressed my lips together, unsure how to react. Ryan suddenly scooped me up in his arms, startling me so much that a small sound escaped my throat. On the other end, the crying paused. What was that sound? Ryan grabbed a handful of cold water and splashed it on my collarbone. Your sister-in-law's awake, he said flatly into the phone. I'm not in the country right now. Contact my assistant if you need help. He glanced at his watch, his tone turning sharp. 4 in the morning and you're getting into fights. Hannah, both you and your sister-in-law are giving me headaches. Your allowance is suspended for this month. Sister-in-law? He meant me, apparently. What does that have to do with me? The woman on the line burst into louder sobs. You're cutting my allowance just because I broke up with someone? Do you even have a heart? Ryan let out a cold laugh. You fought over a man. This time I'm only cutting your allowance. If it happens again, I'll freeze your cards completely. He gestured for me to hang up. His expression was tense, his patience clearly thinning. I obediently ended the call, keeping quiet. When Ryan was in this kind of mood, I knew better than to argue. He wrapped a towel around me, then bent down to kiss me gently. You're being unusually good today, he murmured. I didn't respond. He ruffled my hair. Does it still hurt? It'll stop once you're up and moving. Ryan always knew how far to go. He never hit to really hurt me. His punishments were psychological, meant to make me feel embarrassed and powerless. Especially because after every strike, I had to say, thank you, sir. It was twisted. He hits me and makes me thank him for it. What kind of logic is that? When the ache faded, he looked down at me. Seriously, now that you're fine, let's talk properly about us. I blinked up at him, caught off guard. He gripped my chin gently. Why did you break up with me? It's been 3 days. Have you come up with a reason yet, sweetheart? I'd been with Ryan for almost 2 years. We met during my senior year of college. That day, the printer in the faculty office broke down. I was the only one there and couldn't fix it no matter how hard I tried. Ryan happened to walk by the door, and I pulled him in to help, treating him like an errand boy. Hey, do you know how to fix a printer? I'd asked. He looked at me for a long moment, then smiled and nodded. Not really, but I can give it a try. He sounded so confident that I actually believed him. Half an hour later, he'd managed to completely destroy the printer. It was beyond repair. Pieces scattered everywhere like a crime scene. I stared at the mess, devastated. It had started with a minor paper jam, but thanks to him, the machine was now officially junk. I was furious. That printer cost me nearly $3,000 in damages. I stormed out without another word, swearing I'd never see him again. But 3 days later, fate had other plans. I ran into him again while accompanying my professor to an academic event. Ryan was one of the guest speakers. After the event, he added me on WeChat, saying he wanted to apologize and compensate me for the loss. Somehow, our chats turned into daily conversations. He started taking me out to dinner, to movies, even helped me find a part-time job. He was so considerate, so attentive that I began to think he was genuinely a good guy. One night, I even sent him a good person card as a joke. His expression darkened immediately. We were in a crowded movie theater then. On the big screen, the main couple was resolving their misunderstandings in a passionate confession scene. In the dark corner of the room, Ryan leaned over and kissed me. It was my first kiss. I didn't know what to do, and clearly neither did he. The kiss was messy, desperate. I tried to push him away, but he only leaned closer, nipping lightly at my ear as he whispered, "Emma, I don't want to be the good guy. I want to be your boyfriend." I hesitated for a moment, then thought, having a boyfriend doesn't sound so bad. And that's how we started dating. Ryan was the perfect boyfriend. Handsome, fit, protective, and always putting me first. Maybe a little controlling, maybe a little perverted, but I didn't hate it. In fact, I kind of liked it. The only problem was he was too rich. 3 years older than me, already established in his career, and part of a world I'd never belonged to. I loved him so much that even my professor would sigh every time she saw me. She constantly reminded me to be careful not to get deceived. Men from powerful families, she said, love toying with young college girls who don't know better. But I never took her warning seriously. What could Ryan possibly deceive me about? Love wasn't some kind of transaction. I wasn't losing anything. We rarely fought. After nearly 2 years together, we were still like a couple in the honeymoon phase. 2 months ago, he proposed. My first love was about to become my husband. It felt like the perfect love story until I started seeing the cracks. And then it hit me. My professor had been right all along. Ryan was one of those wealthy men who came looking for entertainment, and I was his amusement. I ran away that night, but after 3 days, he found me and brought me back. He clenched his jaw, clearly angry. "So, you'd rather believe your professor than me?" "Not exactly," I pouted. "Then who's Hannah?" "You two were all over the trending searches together." Ryan reached out and poked my cheek, letting out a quiet sound as if deflating a balloon. That only made me more irritated. "I'm asking you a serious question, and you're joking around." Instead of answering, he started kneading my cheeks between his fingers like dough. That trending post was deleted within 30 minutes. "You really believe everything those marketing accounts say? Hannah's my cousin. She lived overseas for years. That's why you've never met her. She just got back last week, and Aunt Linda asked me to look after her." He ruffled my hair. "That morning, I asked if you wanted to come with me to pick her up. You said you were tired and wanted to sleep. You told me to go alone. Don't you remember?" I frowned, trying to recall. Finally, a faint memory surfaced. Sunday morning around 8 o'clock. He had called me to get up, but I'd gone to bed around 2 or 3 the night before. Who wouldn't be cranky being woken up that early? I'd thrown the blanket over my head and ignored him completely. No wonder I didn't remember what he said. "But I saw you and Hannah kissing on the balcony," I insisted. Ryan let out a disbelieving laugh, clearly exasperated. "When we get back home, I'm buying you glasses. Spying on people and imagining things? That's not polite, Emma." I only glanced once. I snapped, and then I looked away. "What's wrong with that?" Without another word, Ryan pulled out his phone and called Hannah. She answered immediately, sounding cheerful. "My dearest brother, you finally come to your senses, haven't you? You're going to restore my allowance, right? I knew it. You're the best brother in the world. I swear I won't get into fights again." I blinked. Wow, she's shameless. That didn't sound like cousinly affection. It sounded like real siblings bickering. Ryan's tone stayed flat. "If you can convince your sister-in-law to stop being mad at me, I'll reconsider your allowance." Then he handed me the phone and switched it to video call mode. Hannah's face appeared on screen. Wide eyes, surprised expression. "Wait, this is your wife? Why would I need to convince her?" she asked, confused. But she quickly brushed it off, her smile returning as she leaned closer to the camera. "Oh my God, sister-in-law. My real sister-in-law. Please don't be mad at my brother anymore. Okay, I'll even share half of my allowance with you. Let's split his fortune together." Ryan was standing right behind me the whole time. I couldn't believe she said that while he was listening. He gave me a long, quiet look, his expression unreadable, but I could tell my doubts had genuinely hurt him. He thought I didn't trust him at all. Guilt rose in my chest. I just wanted to clear my head. I explained softly. I planned to come back and talk to you once I'd calmed down. Ryan accepted that explanation, or at least he pretended to. Once he saw that I wasn't angry anymore, it was his turn to sulk. It was obvious. Lately, he'd stopped joking around with me. He said his work back in New York wasn't urgent and that he'd stay here to rest with me, but he barely smiled. During the day, he'd apply sunscreen on me without saying a word. At night, he'd hold me as we slept, coldly, mechanically, not even a single extra kiss. Chapter 5. I rested my chin in my hand, watching him. He sat on the couch, a laptop on his knees, one hand typing while the other held out a piece of fruit toward me. Open your mouth, he said simply. I pouted. I don't want mango. I want strawberries. Without complaint, he switched the fruit and handed me a strawberry instead. I bit into it obediently. When he pulled his hand back and noticed I was just staring at him without chewing, he tilted his head slightly. What's wrong? He asked. I met his eyes, the strawberry still between my lips, and gently pushed his laptop aside. I slid onto the spot where his laptop had just been, and Ryan's gaze darkened immediately. Trying to lighten the tension, I said softly, "Thank you, sir." The hotel room we were staying in was on one of the highest floors. From the floor-to-ceiling glass window, the entire island spread out below us. The vast blue ocean stretched endlessly behind it, and the sky above looked infinite. And in front of me was him. Ryan pushed me down onto the sofa, his voice low and husky. "Emma, do you even know what you're doing right now?" I blinked. "Of course I do," I said, straightening my posture a little. "I'm seducing you, Ryan." Normally, I didn't call him sir. Only during moments like this, I pouted, lowering my voice. "You haven't kissed me for days. If you won't kiss me, then I'll just kiss you instead." He didn't move, didn't even flinch. So, I cupped his face and pressed my lips to his. Ryan caught me in his arms, his hands steadying me. When I tilted my head up, the sweet taste of strawberry lingered between us. I smiled against his lips. "I really like you, you know." A small grin tugged at the corners of his mouth. "You like me, yet you wanted to break up with me." Seriously, why would he bring that up now of all times? I reached for the fruit platter beside us, picked out a strawberry, bit off half, and tilted my head. "Do you want the rest?" His eyes darkened again. "Yeah. Then open your mouth," I teased. "They're really sweet tonight." Ryan toyed idly with the last strawberry in the dish, lost in thought. I curled up comfortably beside him, finding the warmest spot in his arms. Just as the air between us began to soften, he asked quietly, "When are you planning to go back home?" I hesitated. I've been here for a week already. It's a small island. There's not much left to see." Originally, I'd planned to visit another country after this, but if Ryan had to return home for work, then I could go back with you and maybe travel again later. His hand brushed over my stomach. "We need to go back to register our marriage anyway. You tore up your pregnancy report last time. It said you were 6 weeks along. It's been over a week since then. You should have your progesterone levels checked." "Progesterone?" I repeated blankly. Ryan sighed. "I knew you hadn't done any preparation. We'll go to the hospital this weekend." "All right." I thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay. He'd already made all the arrangements anyway, and honestly, going alone sounded boring. I ran my palm gently over my stomach. It was still perfectly flat. The baby was too small to show. "It doesn't even look like I'm pregnant," I murmured. "It's hard to believe there's really a baby in there." Ryan rested his chin on top of my head, saying nothing. I yawned. It wasn't even 9 o'clock yet, and I was already exhausted. He carried me back to the bedroom, and I wrapped my arms around him like a pillow. Out of nowhere, he whispered, "Emma, I'm sorry." Half asleep, I lifted my head. "Sorry for what? Don't tell me you actually fell in love with your cousin," I mumbled drowsily. He gave a helpless laugh. "You've been reading too much nonsense again. Haven't you?" "It's your fault," I muttered sleepily. "You're the one who makes me call you sir, and don't pretend you don't enjoy it." He didn't answer. I was already too sleepy to notice the silence that followed. By the time I drifted off, I still didn't know what that apology was really for. The next day, after deciding to return home, we booked our flight for the day after tomorrow. That meant today was our last full day on the island. By sheer luck, there happened to be a festival taking place among the nearby islands. The streets were filled with tourists of every skin tone and language. I picked up a brightly colored scarf with a local design and held it up. What do you think, Ryan? Pretty. He adjusted the scarf around my shoulders and told me to spin once. Then, in that serious tone of his, he said, "The blue one you wore the other day suited you better." I groaned dramatically. "But the orange one's pretty, too." He chuckled, taking my hand. All right. Is there anything else you like?" We wandered through the market buying all sorts of handmade souvenirs. Some rough, some surprisingly delicate. It was charming. All of it. Then I spotted a small decorative ornament I really liked. Ryan picked it up, flipped it over, and raised a brow. On the bottom, it read "Made in China." He gave me a teasing smile. "Still want it?" I glared at him. "You're impossible." He laughed quietly, clearly amused. I couldn't help laughing. Even the handicrafts in a remote corner like this are fake. Everything here fascinated me, every trinket, every handmade item. But Ryan remained calm and composed, as if nothing around him could truly capture his interest. Still, he never once let go of my hand throughout the day. As evening fell, the souvenirs we bought were sent back to the hotel. We joined the evening festival hosted by a local tribe. For a small fee, guests were given beautiful handmade flower garlands. Each one was woven from frangipani blossoms of different colors, their fragrance sweet and soft in the sea breeze. Chapter 6. Ryan placed one around my neck himself. People were gathered around a large bonfire, singing, laughing, and dancing. The whole beach shimmered in firelight, filled with warmth and joy. I rested my chin in my hand, watching the dancers. After a while, a young woman approached me. Hearing my accent, she lit up immediately and invited me to join them. Ryan declined for me before I could answer. "My wife's pregnant," he said smoothly. The girl blinked in surprise, then smiled wistfully. "Really? You don't look it at all. How far along are you? You two must be newlyweds on your honeymoon." "Huh?" I froze, embarrassed. How was I supposed to answer that? I hadn't expected him to tell anyone I was pregnant. I stayed silent, letting him handle it. 7 weeks, Ryan replied calmly. I just wanted to take her somewhere peaceful to relax. We were sitting a little away from the main fire pit, where the light was softer and shadows danced along his face. Dressed casually for once, he looked less like the sharp, powerful CEO he usually was and more like an ordinary man, gentle, warm, approachable. When he turned to me and smiled, my chest tightened a little. He reached out and brushed my hair affectionately, and the girl beside us whispered under her breath, "Wow, that's lethal. My single heart can't take this." Then she laughed, waving, "I won't interrupt anymore. Enjoy your honeymoon." I turned to Ryan and said, "You're being really sweet today." He pinched my palm lightly. "When am I not sweet?" I gave him a look. "When you make me mad, you're terrible. And in bed, you're not sweet at all. You're downright scary. Put those two together and it's a nightmare." He chuckled. "You only think that because you don't listen. The scariest is when you take off your watch and make me count," I muttered. I stood on my toes and kissed him softly. "Sometimes I feel like you're gentler with other people than you are with me." Ryan lowered his gaze, catching my chin between his fingers. "Is that so?" I nodded. "It's true. No decent man grabs someone's chin just to make them look up at him." He leaned in closer and kissed me deeply, his breath hot against my lips. "That's because my Emma likes it when I do." His voice dropped even lower. "Who's the one who keeps provoking me every few days just to get punished?" I huffed, flustered. "What nonsense are you talking about? I don't do that. You're the one who starts it every time." Ryan gave me a warning look. "Don't think being pregnant means you can tease me like that." I smirked. "I can't stay pregnant forever, you know." He sighed, but I could see the faint twitch in his jaw. He was trying so hard to hold himself back. I stared at him deliberately. "What's wrong, Ryan?" He finally looked up, his tone calm but firm. "Emmeline, stop it." I blinked innocently. "No." In one swift motion, he grabbed the bedsheet, wrapped it around my wrists, and tied them loosely. My eyelashes fluttered, my pulse quickening. He bundled me snugly in a blanket before heading to the bathroom. I heard the sound of running water and looked down at my bound wrists, sighing. He really didn't leave me any choice. Still, I could easily slip out of the loose knot with a twist of my wrist. His self-control was almost impressive. Almost. When Ryan came out of the shower, his hair damp and his skin cool from the cold water, he reached for me. I flinched. "You're freezing. Don't touch me." This time he didn't back down. He pulled me firmly into his arms. "Be good. Just let me hold you." "Fine," I mumbled, giving in. Being obedient once in a while wouldn't kill me, but I couldn't stay still for long. The moment I fidgeted, he retaliated, kneading and tickling me until I was breathless with laughter, like I was nothing more than soft dough under his hands. "I can't believe how gentle you used to be when you were chasing me," I complained, clutching a pillow for protection. "I totally fell for your fake nice guy act." He toweled off his hair and said casually, That's all you have to say." I glared. "You're impossible. I'm not talking to you anymore." He pulled me close again. I tried to wriggle free. He tightened his hold. I slipped away. He caught me again. And so it went, me escaping, him catching, until we were both laughing breathlessly, the night outside sinking into soft, quiet darkness. We went back and forth like that several times before Ryan finally tightened his arms around me. "Enough," he murmured against my hair. He tucked a thin blanket around me and chuckled. "I used to be a good guy. You're the one who corrupted me." I rolled my eyes. "Excuse me? You're the one who corrupted me. Stop rewriting history." Before we landed, Ryan helped me layer on clothes. 3 layers inside, 3 layers outside. If he hadn't reminded me, I would have completely forgotten that we were flying from the southern hemisphere back north. It was summer on the island, but in New York, winter had already arrived, and snow blanketed the city. I pulled on a soft fur hat and bundled myself into a puffy coat until I looked like a walking snowball. The cold wind nipped at my cheeks the moment we stepped outside, making me shiver. Ryan immediately took my hand, his palm warm against mine. Thankfully, the airport's heating system was strong, and I started to feel more comfortable. Crowds of people were waiting to greet arriving passengers. I glanced around briefly, then lost interest until a loud, overly familiar voice called out across the hall. "Cousin, sister-in-law, over here. Your favorite little sister is freezing out here." Even in the noisy terminal, her voice cut through like a siren. Heads turned. People stared. I followed the sound and sure enough, there she was. Hannah. My stomach dropped. I immediately ducked behind Ryan's back, mortified. This was the same woman who had once gotten into a midnight street fight and ended up at the police station. The concept of embarrassment didn't seem to exist in her dictionary. Ryan stepped subtly in front of me, shielding me from view. He tucked my hat lower over my eyes and pretended not to see her. Hannah clutched her chest dramatically. "How could you ignore me like that, brother? I came all this way in the freezing cold." I, on the other hand, was perfectly content with his reaction. Once we'd moved past the crowd, she ran up to us, pouting. "Why didn't you two notice me? I was waiting out there forever. My fingers are numb." Since that phone call Ryan made to her the other day, she'd added me on WeChat. And now, apparently, she'd upgraded from distant cousin to overly attached little sister. Lately, Hannah had been texting me nonstop, checking in, asking questions, clearly trying to use me as a bridge to regain both Ryan's affection and her monthly allowance. I'd even told her our flight details in advance, but she never mentioned she'd be showing up at the airport. She clutched her chest dramatically. "I just wanted to surprise you too, but you're not even a little touched." I smirked. More like terrified than touched. Ryan nodded in agreement, his tone perfectly calm. "You really did startle your sister-in-law, Hannah." No allowance next month. The range of emotions that crossed her face could have won her an acting award. Shock, heartbreak, despair, all delivered in smooth, perfectly timed transitions. If the New York Film Academy ever needed a live example of method acting, they could just hire her. "You're heartless," she cried, clutching her coat like a tragic heroine. I pulled my puffer jacket tighter around me. Ryan must have thought I was cold because he slipped my hand into the pocket of his coat, letting his warmth spread through my frozen fingers. It was strange. Men's hands always seemed warmer than women's in winter. His heat seeped into my skin, soothing the chill. I looked up at him and smiled softly. That was when Hannah threw her hands up. "Enough. You two are unbearable. Not only did you ignore me, but now you're shoving your sickening couple energy in my face. Don't you know I just broke up with someone? Have a little compassion, will you?" I leaned closer to Ryan and whispered, "Your cousin's really loud." Hannah glared, opening her mouth to argue, but Ryan only needed to say 3 words. "Your allowance, Hannah." Her shoulders slumped instantly, her face falling like a deflated balloon. She trudged behind us in silence after that, sulking the entire way to the car. She looked so pitiful that I couldn't help feeling bad. On the ride home, I decided to make conversation. The moment she realized someone was listening, her mood brightened instantly. She started chatting non-stop. Stories, gossip, random thoughts, all tumbling out in a cheerful stream. I poured her a glass of water. When she finally paused to take a sip, she looked at me with sudden excitement. "Sister-in-law, when you two have your wedding, can I be a bridesmaid?" I hesitated, smiling awkwardly. Actually, there might not be a wedding. 2 sets of eyes turned toward me instantly. Ryan's sharp, Hannah's wide. "What?" I blinked. "Why are you both looking at me like that?" Ryan tightened his grip on my hand. Hannah gulped audibly. "If you don't have a wedding, then what's my brother supposed to do?" I propped my chin in my hand. "Well, just register our marriage. A ceremony isn't what makes a marriage, you know." Ryan rarely interrupted me bluntly, but this time his tone was serious. "Why don't you want a wedding, Emma?" I frowned. "What do you think?" "I don't want to because you look bad in a tux." He didn't laugh. He was genuinely waiting for my answer. "I just don't see the point," I said. "Honestly, the baby's due in a little over 8 months. I'll be dealing with prenatal care and everything else. Planning a wedding sounds exhausting." Chapter 8. Ryan finally released my hand. "You won't have to plan anything. I'll take care of it." But most girls look forward to their wedding day. Why not you? "Ryan, why does it have to be a big ceremony?" I sighed. "Fine. You win. If it means that much to you, we'll do it your way." We went to register our marriage on the winter solstice. I brought a bag of wedding candies to share with the other couples at the Civil Affairs Bureau. After signing our names, we stood side by side for the photo, and just like that, we were officially husband and wife. I tucked the red marriage certificate into my pocket and turned to him. "So, what should we eat tonight?" Ryan held his own certificate carefully, gazing at it like it was some priceless treasure. Then he looked at me, eyes soft. "Let's get Italian, the pasta you've been craving." Aside from us, there was only one other couple registering that day. They didn't seem familiar with each other, which struck me as odd. They weren't smiling, and unlike us, they hadn't brought candies to share. When I handed the woman a piece of candy, I asked casually, "Is he your husband?" She froze for a moment before replying awkwardly, "Yes." Noticing my confusion, she added, "We met through a matchmaker. I guess it's just time. You and your husband married for love, right?" I nodded with a polite smile, but didn't say more. After a few brief exchanges, Ryan came over from across the room. I waved goodbye to the woman and ran to him, looping my arms around his waist. "Look," I said, pointing behind me. "The divorce registration line is packed today." He patted my head gently. "That doesn't concern us." I grinned. "Still, it's kind of sad, isn't it?" I told him about the woman I just met, then sighed softly. "Ryan, Why do people who don't love each other still end up getting married? Why do people who don't love each other still get married? I asked softly. Ryan slipped his hand into mine and said, "Everyone makes their own choices." I thought about it for a moment, then nodded. You're right. If people want to get married, that's their decision. If they don't, that's fine, too. Worrying about others won't change anything. Then I smiled, stood on my toes, and kissed him. Luckily, I love you. He didn't respond at first, just looked at me in silence for a long moment. I kissed him again. What's wrong? Instead of answering, he bent down and kissed me deeply. There were people coming and going around us in the Civil Affairs Bureau, but surprisingly, it didn't feel awkward. After all, this was a place for marriage registration, surrounded by newlyweds and well-wishers. Ryan tightened his arms around me. I love you too, he whispered. My pregnancy went smoothly, much easier than most. Aside from being incredibly sleepy all the time, I had no morning sickness, no swelling, nothing. I just slept and let my belly grow bigger day by day. Ryan was an attentive husband. He took care of everything for me throughout my pregnancy, from my diet to my checkups. When it came time to give birth, he refused to wait outside the delivery room. Instead, he came in to stay by my side. He couldn't actually help much, but just knowing he was there kept me calm. When I finally heard our baby cry for the first time, I felt myself drifting into unconsciousness, overwhelmed by exhaustion and relief. When I woke up, Ryan was sitting beside my hospital bed. I hadn't even managed to cry yet, and he was already in tears. It was the first time I'd ever seen him cry. I reached up weakly and wiped away his tears with my fingertips. How long have you been sitting here? Not long, he said, his voice shaky. Liar, I murmured. I'd gone into labor during the day, and now it was completely dark outside. The delivery had gone smoothly, but it couldn't have been quick. He must have been waiting for hours. How's the baby? I asked. She's healthy, he said, a small smile breaking through his tears. A baby girl. I turned my head slightly and saw her sleeping peacefully in the bassinet nearby. Ryan glanced over at her too, then leaned down to hug me gently. You've done so well, Emma. I smiled faintly. So, she's sleeping now, huh? That means I can't hold her yet. He chuckled. Not tonight. I sighed dramatically. Then maybe, since I went through all that pain, you could erase that little notebook of yours. Ryan raised a brow, clearly amused. That notebook, his infamous debt ledger, was something he'd kept throughout my pregnancy. Every time I teased or provoked him, he'd write it down with the time, place, and details, swearing he'd settle the score once I'd given birth. It was both ridiculous and terrifying. Ryan looked momentarily stunned before bursting into laughter. Not a chance. Not a single one will be erased. And just like that, our story came to an end.